Two unemployed actors, two unemployed actors. They're just between projects.
Welcome back to Two Unemployed Actors. I'm Max.
I'm Sam.
And today's a special broadcast because it's all about something that I know nothing about.
Yeah, perfect.
Musical theatre.
Welcome our two special guests. Guys, do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Jess.
I'm Emma.
So now you know who's responsible for which voice. So it's going to be an interesting one because I'm really not too sure about musical theatre. Well, the one thing I'm absolutely 100% certain on is I can't sing. And Emma can back that up 100%. I think I hit the note every now and then by accident.
I would probably beg to differ on that one.
Really? Not even by accident?
Oh no, he's
We'll just leave my
deaf.
talents
It's a
out of it.
tone deaf situation.
I don't know if it's tone deaf, not completely.
Ease up.
Yeah.
I'm just...
We're just trying to diagnose you.
Yeah, we're just trying to work it out.
Take a team of experts. The first question is, because I know as an actor doing, like, say in theatre, 8 shows a week, as a singer, if you have to do 8 shows a week, are you singing all the time?
It does depend on your role. Yeah, I mean, if you sing, as you do in most musicals, the ensemble sings a lot of the time as well. You mean singing all the time, even when you're not doing shows?
No, like you're on stage and it's show number 8 in the week. You just did a matinee in the morning and you've got 4 belters. Are you singing all those songs all the time, like all week? Or is it...
Yeah,
Are they turning up the backing tracks?
No backing tracks. It's all live.
Is there someone in the wings?
No, that's why theatre people, they need that stamina. They have to keep going. No backing tracks.
If you know that you're going to be doing that many shows in a week, for the weeks leading up to it, you're like, don't touch me. I've got all my scarves on. I'm hydrating. Like it's full on, what's the word? Quarantine.
Lemon tea, lemon and honey tea. Need to protect your voice,
So
keep it warm.
all those old stereotypes are accurate.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
totally.
I mean, 8 shows a week is not only demanding on the voice, but depending on the show, the physicality is quite hard depending on the role or what you're playing. So I think it's like, there is that, you do have humidifiers around, you're trying to protect the vocal cords at any cost. And sometimes you're not talking the whole day.
Right.
You get to warm-ups and then you start and then you're going in. It just depends on what you're playing and how demanding the role is. But, I mean, there are some shows in musical theatre which, even though they don't like to admit it, for professional, do have backing tracks on them because it, wouldn't be, it wouldn't be mindful of the singers in those shows to wreck their voices 8 shows a week.
Yeah. That makes sense because we went to see Book of Mormon and actually enjoyed that, which is a change because I don't normally enjoy musicals, as Emma knows so well.
Get out.
But it was really funny. It was really good. And I actually thought they were great. And then Emma tells me, that was the understudy night. And all the understudies got out there and obviously giving the leads a break, but also getting to show off their talents. And I wouldn't have noticed.
Well, that's the thing.
Great.
Like, especially in professional theatre, understudies need to be either as good as the leads or better. And generally, I've heard, understudies, they work harder or they've got work harder, have maybe more talented. That's very generalization. But
so would you, like acting, you'd have to know multiple roles perhaps?
Well, yeah, the understudy will have to learn their parts as the ensemble member or whatever role they have. As well as everything for the lead.
Okay, so there's a surprising amount of similarities.
And sometimes they can be better.
Acting.
Well, I think you've got your understudy, which is normally the stand-in for the lead, and then you've got your swing in musical theatre. So your swing is the person who literally normally can cover, anywhere from 5 to 6 roles, including the lead, and may only get to play the lead maybe once a year, and that's in professional musical theatre. And if the lead is, off sick, the stand-in is also off sick and the understudy happens to be off. And then you've got a swing who may not have played the role in a year, who has to remember everywhere to stand, how to sing the notes, what to do. And so when you actually look at it, like, swings are probably the most experienced people in musical theatre, and a lot of people make the mistake of getting an agent, especially when they're like going to Broadway or West End, and the agent tries to put them as a swing, but a swing is actually for a very talented, they're some of the most underrated performers in musical theatre because they literally have to learn every single role. Like, you go on YouTube and you see the videos of swings and they have to keep these enormous stack of notes from directors just to remember all the different things. So, like, I have to say major prop goes to a swing, and if anyone walks in the door saying that they don't think much of swings, I don't think much of them.
Swing them out of the room.
Yeah,
Emma has
there you
been a
go.
swing, clearly.
That's intense though, because you're right about like blocking and that. And so during rehearsals, they'd have to be as
You have to
interactive and as present as the lead.
Yeah, and that's the
and
hard
not just
part.
the lead.
For everyone.
That's the hard part. Like, you know, when you're an understudy or a swing, you learn all these parts knowing that 99% of the time you're not going to perform them.
I remember one fun fact when it comes to singing. It was another favourite of mine. See, I say I don't like musicals, but then I can reel off all these. Blues Brothers. I love that movie.
Ah, yes.
And they tried to have the recordings and then get all the talent up there in the scene and singing in sync. But they couldn't do it because you've got Aretha Franklin and, you know, these great singers.
Yeah.
Every song is going to sound different when they perform it live.
Yeah.
So that literally, as it's being recorded, those scenes, they're actually singing, which is something that doesn't happen normally when
Like
you know,
live
you've
in
got
front of the
a
camera.
musical theatre. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Les
they
Mis-
did it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
Talking about the same thing, Les Mis, the movie
Right.
adaptation, all of that is done live.
Okay.
And obviously, the film's a lot different to the live musical because the live musical is completely sung through. Like,
Right.
there's hardly any spoken dialogue. Like, everything is sung through.
Okay.
But in the film, obviously, that's different. But all of those recordings, like the famous scene of Anne Hathaway doing I Dreamed a Dream, like, that's all live in front of a camera, which is pretty crazy.
She can sing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Okay. It's like Bradley Cooper out of nowhere.
And clearly
you can sing.
Russell
yeah.
Crowe as well, singing live in front
was
of
interesting.
I don't know about that.
Have you heard his band, his rock band? Oh, silence in the room says no. Okay, all right.
No.
I've heard of his tree. I've heard of
Yeah.
his tree
Showing
there.
your
The
age,
tree,
Max.
The
yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ross Crowe tree.
It's actually, no, hold on. It's inappropriate content. Sorry, we can't do the tree.
Great content.
Do you want to tell that quick story, Max?
Terminal cancer.
Bit of a, yeah.
Well, I'm trying to market
Bit of a
the
decent-
show because I'd like more than everyone in the room here to be listening. And
Still working on it.
I've got a Google account manager, which makes me feel very important, but really it's just an excuse to spend more money. And if there's ever a million ways to spend it, they'll find it
Yes.
at Google. So
On a
we've
ball
set up,
pit
yeah,
in the
we set up the ads. We set up the ads, which is fantastic. Step one, really complicated, but we got there, and at least I've got a benchmark now. I know how to adjust it. Just wanted 2 different ads, just going simultaneously so I can see which ones work. Wouldn't get approved. Well, that's unusual. I actually got a phone call from a guy at Google saying, "Look, it's been flagged for inappropriate content." I'm like, "Well, that's strange." I thought maybe a word that shouldn't have got through did, because that's happened, episode 2, where I actually took the time to create the little bars and tone effect, applied it only 2 of the 3 times I should have. So anyway, but that happened, but not about me. So then what happened was, I'm like, well, okay, I could have got through. I'm kicking myself thinking only me would actually put a minute segment up which contains an explicit word
Yeah, yeah.
to advertise at Google. That's something I would do.
Annoyingly.
Where is it? Oh, 46 seconds. So I drop in and it's the discussion about Russell Crowe's tree.
Yeah, yeah.
We're actually talking about, and apparently it was explicit content. I said, listen, it's 2 guys talking about a tree. And I felt a bit stupid, but it's 2 guys talking about a tree. You could get more inoffensive.
And he was like, that's why it's
and-
a boring ass
Well, I'm
podcast.
like, I'm a bit confused.
is why.
Like, what's the term? Well, apparently the algorithm picked up terminal cancer.
Firstly, we weren't even talking about terminal cancer. Secondly, why is it inappropriate to talk about if we're not talking about
That
it? you know?
raises more questions than
Yeah,
answers.
exactly.
And that could be a series of podcasts,
Turning
okay?
into a bioethics
including
podcast.
Yeah.
including someone talking us through how the algorithms work at Google.
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't that be
Did you ever
exciting?
get that through? Did you ever call back? It's from last week.
Their solution
Yeah.
was to remove it and then put it back up again
it
because
worked?
it's all algorithm.
Have you tried it again?
It's still in play. It's only been
God.
3 weeks, so we'll see.
Nice. Yeah, there we go. Well, going back to just real quick with singing live in front of the camera. So
Yeah.
we're talking about musical theatre here. Obviously, musical theatre special, but also musicals within film is very cool, like La La Land and all that stuff.
Basically singing.
Singing. We're talking
For
about singing.
people like me,
Singing
when
music.
people are singing
Yes.
And there may or may not be a camera. At least there'll be an audience.
There'll be something.
Singing to an audience.
Yeah, we were, Jess and I recently auditioned for a musical called The Last 5 Years. And we're...
Wait, is this the one where there's only 2 people?
Mhm.
Yes.
The one in Wollongong, still waiting to hear back. We've got a lot of emails from them and we're talking to them and it's
They
really
haven't
cool.
got telephones down there. So.
No, don't listen to Max, guys. We want everyone from Wollongong listening to this podcast. Please, we need as
Yes,
much people
both
as
of
we
you.
want. Yeah.
Via carrier pigeon.
Yeah, but it's a completely sung through musical, and the film in 2014 with Jeremy Jordan and Anna Kendrick was completely sung through, but sung live as well. And we discovered that kind of after watching a few scenes, but we didn't really know because they're quite talented singers. But they were talking about
Quiet. Yeah.
sorry, that's an understatement.
Just
They're
quiet.
very talented
they're
singers and
capable
performers. They're
At
quite
times.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, and they were talking about how they had
Such a
to
tough critic.
belt notes in the middle of New York City streets and all this stuff, and I
Just
think that's really
busking.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Busking and being paid millions.
It's interesting though because I feel like that musicals a film really bombed because I feel like there are some musicals which are just so hard to translate onto the screen. I think that
Cats.
yeah. Oh gosh.
No, I saw the trailer
No,
for Cats.
we're not going there.
Are you supposed to be scared of them?
Oh, I just it's
I
not.
found
I
them
told you,
looking.
it's directed by Stephen King.
They look evil. Like
Yeah.
there were very intense stares through some very good makeup, I have to say.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jason
if you,
Derulo just looked terrifying.
Is he
to be
in that?
perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The CGI on the faces up is not great.
I just think it's going like the whole Cats the
honest, come
musical is a bit of a like. Can I say show?
well, you just
Well, you
did.
already said-
Well, there you go.
It's a bit of
It's out
the
there.
musical. The musical itself is a bit of a weird one, right? Like it's a bit
Is
of
it?
a whacked. Yeah, it's
yeah.
About
It
people who are
gets
cats.
mixed reviews.
just. It's a whacked musical. I mean, you
Isn't
know.
it like a classic, like Phantom of the Opera or something? It's been going somewhere for years non-stop and
It
it just
is,
won't
but
end.
People are
Yes,
saying,
but a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying that quietly as though someone's going
So
to
it's
overhear
the
me.
yeah, I know. Yeah, watch back.
It's it has one, you know, everyone knows the song Memories. It has that great song and everyone waits for that. And that is the song where whoever sings it makes it or breaks it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the big moment.
Yep.
Is it Jennifer Hudson who's singing?
It is.
Yeah, it's Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Hudson
vying for
singing
the
what?
Oscar.
What's she singing?
Memories.
In Cats.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jennifer
speaking
Hudson.
of Oscar and Jennifer Hudson, her last performance at the Oscars was not all that great.
Which one was
if you
that?
remember, I can't remember what she sang.
Well,
'cause
that probably says it all,
wasn't-
doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't that memorable.
Ouch.
Obviously, film is very different because
Yeah.
they would make sure it's right as opposed to live performance. But
but she's a very talented singer.
She's
It's
a
just she had a
totally-
very bad performance that time.
Yeah.
The text stuff
And
is
that
important.
happens.
Like,
Of
remember,
course.
we were at the Actors, Emma, and who was the singer that they had on stage? And we were getting really bad audio. Like I was expecting them to
Vance Joy.
Vance Joy.
Oh.
So great. Like, he only has one song, and you'd think, well, obviously it would have done a sound check. Obviously,
No.
no, maybe not.
No, they did a sound check, but his audio was just all over the place. But I think when
It took like 30 seconds to fix, though.
But I think when it's being filmed for TV, which it was in that case, like it's a little bit different.
They could
TV
just play
viewers
the
wouldn't have
song over
seen
the
it.
top,
We
yeah.
could hear it.
Yeah.
And you could tell he was a little bit thrown because he was
Yeah.
flat
Yeah.
because something had happened with his audio and his
So
feedback.
his monitors were probably as bad as what we were getting, yet the sound going into the box that makes it to television is my technical
Well,
word.
as,
Yeah.
as
That was
most
probably
singers,
fine.
as most singers would know, he was obviously getting feedback from
Yeah.
the stage, which he could hear, which
Yeah.
always throws you out when you can hear your own voice back through it, looped
Yeah.
back. It's just
Right.
like when someone's talking on the phone is the best way
Jeez.
the best
And
way
you
to
hear
explain it
yourself
to
echo.
non-singers is when you're talking on
yeah.
the phone,
Explain
you
to
hear
me.
yourself back,
Yep.
it messes you up.
Right.
So when singers hear that, it really throws them. And most professional singers can ignore it and move forward, but sometimes it's just too hard and
Yeah.
and it's terrible.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So like in a
And
music,
no reflection on him, but I just
No.
want to say, because it was great, but it was just the tech stuff. And I know now why they've got so much requirements as to we won't perform unless, all these technical capabilities are met.
but you see in a musical, it's really interesting because when you're on stage, you don't have any earpieces or anything. You have your mic. It's generally put into your hair or on your face, but you have to watch the conductor because you're waiting for. But you're also trying to do the performance, but you're trying to not race ahead. So like,
Yeah.
you've got there's a whole bunch of musicality which people don't realize from just a technical point of view, and then you're
Right.
trying to act, but you also have to think about the notes, watching the conductor,
So
not
you
jumping
can't just
ahead.
be a great singer. You've got to understand music because you've got an orchestra pit beneath you. And
Or in like a band in front of
Or a
you,
band
or
in front of
even
you,
a
yeah.
TV screen with a conductor on
Yeah,
it that you're
okay.
hoping is in sync.
Sync.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, no delay on the
No.
That happens, I imagine. A
Yeah.
delay on the conductor keeping time.
Yeah.
Well, and the worst thing is hearing yourself out of time and not knowing how to fix it and having
Yeah.
to continue.
I think the worst thing's performing a really popular song that everyone knows and forgetting, what was it, Grease? Was it Sam?
For your information, it was not a very popular song that everyone knows.
Right.
So it's
Just in a
okay.
musical that everybody knows.
No.
What's this?
Yeah.
What's the story?
Yeah, so when
Don't
I
you
was
listen to our podcast, Emma?
Yeah, what is this? In Greece, I played Duty, which is one of the funny friends or whatever. But he sings those magic changes, which is a song that isn't in. No, it is in the film, but in the background, like one of the guys don't sing
Right.
it. But one of the nights I got too comfortable with just muscle memory and started singing verse 2 before verse 1, and threw me off because what actors should do is know their song back to front, upside down, forward, whatever,
Yep.
everywhere. So you can start from a different place if something stuffs up. But that's also very difficult because you know where you're singing it at which point on stage. The blocking helps, all that stuff. Anyway, I started singing verse 2 first, and it completely threw me off. And
a
I
bit
kind of
different.
turned my back and was like, dancing. I'm trying to figure out, where's the next lyric? Yeah, got it. I got back into it, but it was very, it's a good experience to have, I guess. But
Can
it
you
was
top that,
awkward.
Jess, with a musical moment
Oh my gosh.
with an audience?
I'm sure I can, but I've just completely blanked. It's not a personal experience, but I remember.
Who are you throwing under the bus? Do you want a name and shame? Or you just,
I believe it is
This
a
person.
personal anecdote by an old performing teacher of mine, Francine Bell, who's a very talented singer, lovely woman. But I believe that she was once performing the Australian National Anthem at some big
important.
sporting event, that kind of thing. Yeah, just slightly. She gets to the end of the song, it's all great, and then belts out the final line, "Advance Australia Square."
no.
I don't even know how you get that wrong.
I don't know how she did either. I mean, she's American,
Okay,
but
that's
she's
fair.
lived here for a while.
But I mean, you've got to say the word a few times through the song.
But she's American.
Yes,
So by the
so
time you get to the
she'd
end,
done
it's probably
it,
reinforced
and then it just came out.
a square at the end.
But the anecdote, the whole point was like, and you just got to sell it. And she was doing the whole performing with body,
Get away
everything,
with it.
just
Hopefully it
being
was
like, yeah,
Did I hear?
nobody
No.
knows.
No, I wouldn't have heard. No, she wouldn't
Maybe
have
it was a tech issue,
yeah.
like maybe just some feedback
Gremlins.
came through. Exactly.
Square fair. I wonder how close those vowels are. You might have got away with it.
done. Square fair. What about you, Emma?
So it's really funny because I'm not so much. The singing is pretty like, I would say I've never in performing in musicals had a moment where I've forgotten lyrics, but I unfortunately, why I never
Yeah,
pursued.
all right, we get it.
Sorry,
No. What I'm about to say is, unfortunately, the reason why I never pursued musical theatre professionally is because I'm not the triple threat. The dancing, unfortunately, just leaves a lot to be desired. And my physicality on stage has often resulted in many accidents. So my favourite...
In front of an
probably-
audience?
In front of large audiences.
Brilliant.
So a couple of things I've done is I was performing in a show so I lived down on the South Coast in the Shoalhaven Entertainment Centre, brand new, 2,000 people watching. And twice in this show, once we were singing on like bleachers, so think like Grease style where they're singing.
Yeah.
And as I'm dancing, I fell off one,
Okay.
which was,
While you were singing?
yeah, while I was singing.
Did you keep singing?
Yeah, I just got back up, and it really hurt. It really hurt. I could
Were
feel.
you limping? Like, was it noticeable?
Yeah, I could feel it bruising as I continued to sing and then walked off stage. But then the next part of it was during the final bows, I ran out and slipped over, went straight on my ass. Yeah.
Fantastic. But what sort of role were you playing? Was it like
no.
the funny friend so
See,
you could
here's
get away
the
with
thing.
it?
Yeah, I was playing the funny, like klutzy, geeky, like total
Typecast.
underdog.
That's okay.
But I think you see,
Made for you, that role.
so that was okay, and the audience like went wild.
Ignored.
They thought it was part of the performance, so I just got back up.
That's
Kept-
it. If you make it, sell it. Advance Australia Square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like chorus shoes are the worst though.
Yeah.
Like they cause so many of those accidents because I did remember a case, not singing, but I had this really emotional scene in the musical of Bonnie and Clyde.
Wait, there's a musical about Bonnie and Clyde,
There
the bank
is.
robbers?
Max,
Okay.
just
Sorry,
Go with it. Just go with it.
Just imagine
Learning
those
new things
songs.
all the time.
Yeah.
they're very cool.
And it was kind of the tearjerker scene, if I do say so myself.
Oh.
But then I go to leave the scene, and I just kind of hop and just kind of slide across this lino floor on my chorus shoes after everyone's just been like, and you just hear this from the audience, and I just run off and I make
They could almost feel it themselves.
But I feel like it almost would have been better if I planted the fall and just
Right.
went all the way,
Yeah.
as opposed to just kind
Follow
of
through.
sliding
I reckon
off
that's
stage.
well, you just weren't getting enough attention, so you decided that this is a way to bring the focus
Exactly.
back onto me. I want them all
Exactly.
to remember who I am.
Yeah.
So Jess and Emma are now pursuing careers as stunt women. Yep.
Backstage.
The only stunt
Is that
people who
class?
can actually sing while doing a stunt too.
Hey,
Yeah.
there we go.
I think I would.
It's a niche market.
I think about like all these amateur theatre companies getting the rights to Wicked in Australia, and I'm just concerned for the amount of potential amateur Elphabas who will die because of poor staging.
Okay,
God,
then
yeah.
she's turning red. It's okay. It's okay. Nope,
Yeah.
she's turning blue. She's turning blue.
Can I just
Go
need
blue.
to
All
the
mention this, but
colours.
like, I think giving the rights to Wicked to amateur theatre companies in Australia has been probably the worst thing for that
Really?
music. Like,
How many? Like so there's one role where they've got a lot of belters in this musical. Is that and that's alphabet?
So Elphaba,
That one.
Alphabet, yes.
alphabet, yeah. So
Alphabet.
Elphaba is like probably the most demanding vocal role for any female in musical theatre.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's literally
It's up there,
belting.
yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
Broadway
Yeah.
actress couldn't
Wow.
pull it off all the
Exactly.
time.
Yeah.
So, what happens is no professional Elphaba is doing 8 shows in a row. It just would not be good for their
that's,
Viable,
that's,
yeah.
oh, I thought- yeah, that's where my
Actually,
question
funny you
came
say
from
that
originally.
because my brother and best friend were actually in the world premiere, high school world premiere of Wicked. It was at
Sorry, I
Oh,
shouldn't make that sound.
Jesus. That
It
sound was
at
coming from Emma
it was at
Brady's
Kambala.
microphone.
It was at Kambala last year before, 2017 maybe. Yeah. Elphaba, played by a girl named Jess Zylstra, very talented. She pulled it off. It was amazing. And she
Wow.
was she's very talented. She's now...
I believe she
got,
carried
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, no, what? My brother and best friend, they did it. No,
Yes.
no, she's now gone into a school in America, but she's very good. But you're right, like, it is a hard
It's
That's huge.
show for
it's
that.
possible to do it. I just don't think it's responsible of any good director to let, especially young women who are singing. And a lot of in the amateur musical theatres, they choose young women who are very young and trying to pull that role. Like, you can belt hard and fast and do it for 8, which might be the only 8 shows that you do in that week. But it's so dangerous to your voice. Like, if I was a young person potentially looking at pursuing a career, even just in singing, I wouldn't want to risk my voice for it.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't know, I think they're doing a disservice to that musical, and I wonder why they gave it to Australia. I don't know, maybe because
I
we
bet
don't
it's
get
not
anything.
cheap either.
Oh, it'd be a fortune. But I just like the interesting thing about it is obviously for anyone who has seen it, it has a very distinctive look and feel, and it's amazing. But it's really hard because so many amateur musical theatre companies try and pull that off. But it's like,
Sometimes it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
Competing
It'd be
with
more
some-
interesting to see
yeah.
a different way of doing it.
Especially
'cause
when
you
it's an
can.
iconic show.
It's an iconic
Everyone's
show.
got their version of it.
You,
Well,
you
in their
can't copy
minds.
Idina Menzel. You can't copy her.
That
Wow.
reminds
Because she
me of-
couldn't even make it
Yeah.
all the way without damaging
that
her
reminds
voice.
me of a story
Poor thing.
that, well, not a story, but story that Jess and I were talking about the other day in the car. She was told, or Jess, you were told that the musical Heathers.
good.
Such great music.
Yeah, amazing
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
But the original actress who played Veronica
Yes.
just wouldn't do the next season because of how many belting
Worried about her
notes
voice.
she had
so
to do.
vocally challenging. And that's the
Damaging.
interesting thing. I was saying to Sam about this, like men writing musicals for female singers and just being like, yeah, that's in a soprano range. They can sing that maybe once, but if we're talking the 8 shows a week and then months and months of the same season, you're going to damage your voice. Like there's no other way you can do it, especially from the Heathers soundtrack, Dead Girl Walking. The end of that is just all insane belting. And I can't imagine anyone being able to keep that up.
That end note is just, I saw it on West End last year, and that end note is just incredible. Like when you hear it live, so I heard the lead singer, I can't remember her name, but she's this incredible, like, talking about representation in musical theatre. She's everything a lead isn't, in terms of, like, she's this big, voluptuous girl who has this amazing voice, is very, like, normally given, you know, the quirky best friend role. And she was just incredible, and hearing that belt is just something you can't, like, you just hear it and you get shivers down your spine because you know how hard and demanding it is. But that musical is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like hard and rocky, and like it's, the band is like behind the scenes, and it's like, it's just a very different musical in itself. But I mean, and the physical, that musical.
I guess it's similar to Dear Evan Hansen. Like the person who plays Evan, there's a lot of belting at very, very high songs as well. And I mean, that's very straining on the voice as well, 100%. Like, and that was written by guys for a guy, but it's just, you know, it's hard. And, you know, I don't think anyone expects you to stay for season after season after season after season. I mean, that doesn't generally happen. That's why a lot of actors change and stuff like that. And we've got a 16-year-old now playing Evan, which is amazing. His stamina must be through the roof.
Okay.
But
Who played, I can't remember his name.
Ben Platt.
Oh, Ben Platt. He's amazing.
He's awesome. He was very good.
He's
very good.
I think that's so interesting because when you look at him, like, if you listen to the original cast recordings, like, what I love about him is he doesn't sing it perfectly, and he brings such a big vulnerability. What's that? I can never remember the song, like the key song.
You will be found.
Not You'll
For
Be Found.
Forever.
Waving
Like,
through a window.
Waving through a window.
maybe it is.
Or For Forever, he holds a high note and then just kind of falls off at the end slightly.
I'm trying to think. There's this moment he says, like, I've wrecked it all or something, that last one, which is like,
Words Fail.
Oh, Words Fail. That is a hard song.
That's what I was going to say. That
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one.
We know
Okay,
that's just
so Words Fail,
Yeah.
when he sings that at the start, it is like, what I love about that, and what I think I've learned as a performer, is like, you don't have to get the notes perfect. Like in there you can hear his tears and his like crying,
his
and
emotion.
It's snotty.
It's
It's snotty.
There's
It
some
sounds
snotty.
I think we just
100
found a new term for a musical.
snotty.
I want emotion,
snotty
and I just
swing.
want raw snot.
Snot.
There is 100% perfection within imperfection.
Yeah.
100%, especially
Yeah.
with musicals. And his emotion was, like you said, you could hear it in his voice. You could see it. I've watched the bootlegs. So
Got to sell the
want to see it
song.
live. But yeah, he's like very emotional. But I was watching an interview and he was saying that, you know, after every show he'd just go back, you know, behind the curtain and like almost throw up. It was so emotional. So emotionally draining, because, you know, he's pretty depressed the whole time.
I know for me, when I'm working out to get into character and to get out of character, like music really helps me. But I wonder if music helps singers to get in.
I think it would depend on
It's
the
probably
song.
like, I don't want to hear
Which
another
one?
song for at least, until we sing tomorrow.
Well, yeah, like after when you have to learn a specific song for an audition,
Yep.
if it's like, especially if it's an audition that I've been turned down for,
Right.
and I've spent weeks learning that song, and then you hear it and you're just like, I don't want to listen to this or I will throw up.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of that feeling.
I think everyone has like, when you've got your audition reel of songs, like they always ask for, generally for females, depending on what, like if you're mezzo soprano like me, they always want to belt, but they always
Right.
want some type of sad song, and
a
most
contrast.
To show your range.
Yeah.
Right.
and most people want like, and where I find most people go wrong is they want that really sad song, and like most females, especially young, will just over dramatize the crap out of it,
Yeah,
or you
yeah,
get a perfectly
much.
sung song with no character, like the original,
Right.
whoever did the original cast recording. And so there's a musical called Next to Normal, and it deals with some really tough subject matter, and it's a musical which probably it never got to Australia because it's a hard one to watch. It's not one you leave and feel like really great leaving.
So it's quite confronting.
Yeah, it's about
what sort of subject matter?
It's about someone dealing with mental illness and the outfall that
Right,
has. And it's
okay.
a very sad
So not so
musical.
many happy songs.
And so one of the songs is like, it's called So Anyway I'm Leaving, and it's this like pinnacle song for the it's actually really beautiful, but a lot of people make the mistake of singing it with sadness and like this real, like, I don't know, like sort of tacky sadness.
So it's like when a director says to an actor, "I want you to be sad now," you know.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
then,
I'm not playing sad. I'm playing a character in this moment of blah blah. You know, there's something
And bring something
and
new
it should
to it,
happen.
and that's what they'd
something
want to
new.
see
Yeah.
as well. They
And
want to see you every casting director wants to see you within the role as well. So.
And it's interesting because I remember like when I sang it when I was like 19 and learn it, I would sing it the very sad, like over dramatic
Yeah.
way. When now when I go back there, I sing it with like that is actually a moment where the character's breaking free and they're scared, but they're also like really happy. So and I think like, you know, it's just one of those moments, this opening line you can sing with so many different ways. And I think like acting, they make you say a line in different ways.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to say like, you know, I'll just sing
Especially
a
for
bar.
an audition, you sort of
If you sing a bar of it, you've got like, it's so anyway, I'm leaving. So you can sing it with very different like...
Are you going to sing again?
No,
This is from someone who said she would not sing on the podcast.
That's a line.
She does
Well, we
the
hear
intro
you
every
sing
week.
every week.
Still
Yeah.
counts for- Oh, that's true,
Every
actually,
week.
yes.
So like that's the thing. There's like I think you've got to learn how to sing things with different meaning behind
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about how, you're asked generally in auditions to, if you're going to sing two songs, like have it contrasting. And even if you're not, that's probably a good idea so they can see your emotional range. I think it's really cool if you can find one song that covers all emotions. Like I've been fortunate enough to find one, Moving Too Fast from the last 5 years, covers kind of, you know, it's got quieter moments, louder moments, kind of excited,
Okay.
kind of worried, blah, blah, blah. And that's really cool. And I think that's
Yeah.
really
Do
great.
pe-
There's heaps of those, but you just got to find them and fit them
And
into your
finding
voice.
stuff in your range
Yeah.
and often finding a original or another cast recording of a singer that's like a similar kind of vocal style to you. Not that you want to copy it, but just having that to reference can be
Right.
really helpful.
And what about, so on the other side of it, so if you're auditioning people for a musical, are you really going to expect to hear the same songs over and over again? People are going to choose the same most popular song. It's
Oh
like
my
it's like
God.
when and because I'm ancient, Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You, and I just remember every bloody talent show, all these
Yeah.
kids would get up and belt this song
yeah.
and destroy it.
Can we
There's-
talk about songs we should never sing at auditions?
This is
like the
probably
list?
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I
Words fail.
last year I was auditioning for a musical, which is How I Met Sam.
Well
Yeah, we spoke
cast.
about that last podcast if you listened to it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a long
Did you
ride
actually?
home.
Yeah.
It's the only one I've missed.
I know. You've been very good.
And she's
I'm
not
just
going to
joking.
cast you again by the sound. Keep that attitude up, Sam.
But it was the new musical Waitress. So many young female singers. It's beautiful music,
Right.
but will just come in and sing the same songs
Right.
over and over again.
Is it She Used to Be Mine?
She Used to Be Mine is the one. And also a lot of guys are singing it now because Jeremy Jordan did a very famous cover of it. And so now I just like the
So
amount of
good.
times
Really?
I've heard that song.
It's so
So
good.
when you get a notice for an audition, will they stipulate some songs you need to sing? Like you can choose from this list.
It definitely depends. Like
Yeah.
sometimes they'll ask you to have one song prepared of your own, and then they'll have one or
Suggested.
two options,
Right.
or one option that you can do
Okay.
as a male singer and one as a female singer.
Yeah.
Do they ever say, "Do not sing this song from The Waitress"?
Sometimes they say I think it was, I forgot which. I've done a couple of several musicals, but in the auditions they'll say, like, sing a song that suits your range, sing 16 bars of it, blah blah blah, whatever.
Right. So they can see
but-
you when you're most comfortable.
Yeah, but don't do a song from this musical. Like sometimes they'll
Yeah.
specify that
Yeah.
for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe they'll keep it for the callback. Like for example, for Dogfight,
Yeah.
when we did that, Jess was musical director, as everyone knows when they listen to the fifth podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Ouch.
I'm kidding. But she and her crew colleagues, I
Yes.
guess, production colleagues,
The
whatever.
team.
The team.
The team made everyone who was coming back for the lead or all the male singers to sing
It was those we were considering for,
for
the lead.
would sing
Right.
"Come Back" from Dogfight, which is probably one of the hardest songs. In
I
the
would
whole
say
thing.
for
Really?
like a tenor, it is one of the most
It's,
vocally challenging
Should we
songs.
do a little snippet, cut it into the podcast. If you want to.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's it's really high but consistently high, and there's
And really weird intervals, like
Weird.
jumping between, which
Okay.
is a big gap between notes.
That's
Is what an interval
means.
is.
Right. Right.
This is-
Well, not
you don't leave the
necessarily
room
a
and
big
get a
gap,
coffee.
but just a gap.
For example,
It's not. There's
No,
donuts.
not that kind of,
No.
like an intermission. No.
No.
this is the
Okay.
end of the song. Yeah.
Do they come back or
Yes.
just keeps going?
And
No, it's
Sam
realistic.
sung
Everyone
that,
dies.
Okay.
what, 5 nights in a row for our
Yeah.
production of
It was
Dogfight?
hard, and that's the last song
Right.
for him.
So
So
you got to you can't sort of you
it's
got to
after all
save
the
some
other
stuff.
songs that you sing
Save some juice, save some magic juice for the end.
Yeah,
it's good,
but
but-
all of the other songs are so high energy
as well.
as well. So you really got to have stamina.
But like
Yeah.
Emma was saying, because you've sung all these other songs now, your voice is tired, it's crackly, blah,
Yeah.
blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
I keep saying blah, blah, blah. Just call this out.
blah, blah, blah,
This is
blah.
why
blah, blah.
50 minutes turns into 10.
This is our podcast. Blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And a series of beeps.
No,
Thank you, Emma.
but so your voice is tired, but it works for it because it's such an emotional song at the
Right,
end.
right.
So even those slight imperfections, maybe the slight
Yeah.
raspiness, which I did add, and angry and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Is good.
So that
and
can
it
help
works. And
to
it works.
pull you through.
Yeah, and it was a hard song for a callback, for a comeback.
Come back
Yeah.
from, the start of the show.
And I think that's what callbacks need to be. Like, if not in the audition, definitely the callback. You got to filter out all the people who can't do the top
Yeah, because every show
parts,
is different.
like the climax of
Right.
the musical.
Because
or
there's
the
no
climax of the-
point in looking at someone if they're not going to be able to
Exactly.
carry
Yeah.
off. Right.
Or if they
okay.
don't have the rhythm or the understanding of music to know a song like that, it's not just about the notes you're hitting, it's about your breath control and
Totally.
you need to understand where to
Yeah.
a musical director doesn't want to sit with you and be telling you where to put the breaths in. They need you to understand that already.
Yeah.
And then they can help you if you're missing a breath somewhere, but you need to have a good there are some, and I go back to Wicked because it's a good example, but No Good Deed. So
Yeah.
if you're going to audition for Wicked, that's going to be in the callback because that is such a hard song. It's everywhere, it's fast, and then there's so much there's so much vibrato in it and belting and it's acting and you've got to run all over the stage. So
Jesus.
when you're doing a musical where there's a very demanding song in it, you want to know that person at least has a very good shot at it.
Yeah.
So you're going to put that in the callbacks. But you don't want to hear if you're auditioning for a song, no musical director or director wants to hear Les Mis. They don't want to hear
Yeah.
On My Own.
stars,
Oh my
stars and
gosh.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. But also that's they don't
Cat's
expect
memory,
it.
back to
Yeah,
Cats.
memories.
They don't expect it to be perfect, obviously.
No.
You've
Right,
you
yeah,
generally only
yeah.
have a week to prepare
Yeah,
for that
yeah.
audition. But if you can show them that you can learn the lyrics,
Yeah,
learn the
yeah.
harmonies, learn the stuff to a pretty
That
good
stuff you can-
standard
yeah, you can
within
get
a
away with.
week, that's very good.
As opposed to teaching how to
Yeah.
sing.
Yeah,
100%.
Well, for
Still rules me out then.
the last 5 years audition for Kathy, the first one, not even the callback, was Climbing Uphill, which
Yeah.
is she's in this big kind of audition sequence where she flicks in and out between singing the song she's actually auditioning with.
Right.
And her stream of consciousness and going, oh God, I wish I told them I was sick. They're going to hate me. I hate these shoes. Why am I wearing these shoes? Why did I pick this song? Why did I pick this career?
Bit of a whinger, if you ask me.
A little. She's kind of pitying herself.
Just, harden up.
Yeah.
I mean, she does start with a pretty sad song. I mean, the musical opens with
Yeah.
Oh, it's
the
so cool,
pinnacle
though.
of
Intense.
Jeez.
Oh, it's
Pity.
such cool
Spoiler
music.
alert, everyone, but yeah.
not really. It's first song.
Been out for a while.
Oh, Max
I mean-
just got
Has it? What are we talking about again? Which one is it? Fifth
Last
year?
The
five
last 5 years.
The last 5 years.
I mean,
50 first dates, is it?
everyone
The
will
fifth
know
wave?
that if you start an audition and it's, the first line is Jamie is over. If I hear someone sing that, I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Because they'll sing it
Stop.
melodramatically.
Right.
Again, here
dear.
we go with the melodramatic. And then it's it's also, I feel so sorry for the accompanist. No.
Come
no.
on,
That was close.
Is that what they call it on the
That was
South?
pretty close.
I mean, I
They
can't
call
be
that on the South
judging.
Coast, do they?
I can't be judging.
The piano
The piano person.
the person who
The
plays
backing track.
I mean, that's a hard song
You're
as
heading
well,
into Max
so
territory. Look out.
That's
room.
that's a hard song to play on the piano,
Yeah.
so they're not being very considerate as well.
Well, yeah,
So who's not being considered? The piano person.
the person who brings the 16
Well,
bars
when I
of that.
auditioned for this current musical that I'm in, 3 weeks in spring, I auditioned with Moving Too Fast for 3 weeks in spring, and I gave the pianist my the sheet music, and it's just like you know, it's like crazy hard. Bluesy,
And did they just slap you on the head and go,
broken-
no chance? Or-
Yeah.
Well, he
Goodbye.
played it amazingly, but he was
wow.
like when he finished it, he would like sit. He sat back. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for that.
Oh my God. You owe him a beer.
I mean,
Yeah.
they can.
Well, he dropped out. So
I mean, they can mess with you. Let's be real. If you don't have your sheet music on point and you're being an idiot, they will mess with you. Like if they
The power
see,
of the piano person.
if they see some bad, you know, if your sheet music's not together properly, and
It's
if you
all
don't.
handwritten notes all over it.
Oh, the worst is
Don't
when you don't have
piss
your
up.
16 bars prepared and you're like, just
Oh,
play
yeah.
a bit
Let's
of
just
this.
do a
and
bit of this
bit of
cut
this.
and then go
Oh,
back. And,
no.
Or
Yeah.
the one that I
Don't
love the
be
most
difficult.
when you know someone is a baby is when they bring the backing track and you're like,
Yeah.
or they're like, I'll just do this a cappella. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Just like.
Wow.
it's a lot of amateur.
But even
musicals as
in
well.
that song, Climbing Uphill, there's lines in her stream of now I'm doing it.
Piano person.
Yes, in her
Piano
stream
person.
of piano.
stream of accompaniment.
That she's going, God, does this pianist hate me? Like she's flipping
Yeah.
in and out. And that's
It's a very
just
cool
because
song.
it's so common that you'll have an accompanist who pays you no
Accompanist.
favors.
Yeah.
Accompanist.
Well, sometimes you just looked at them wrong and you've annoyed them.
Yeah.
That's it. It's gone.
They've had
a
a
fickle
long
world in
day.
musical
They're playing
theatre.
for everyone. They're doing On My
Yeah,
Own
yeah.
all
God,
day.
I bet they want
Yeah.
to play the same
And if
song
you
over and
bring,
over again.
I've seen it before where it's not professional and it's not nice, but in
What did you
amateur
do?
theatre, no, not me, but in amateur theatre, look, not everyone
My
acts
friend.
professionally, and that's my
Yes.
domain that I can speak for.
Yes.
And there are some who play it maybe a little too fast, which is
dear.
quite funny. Like if you hear On My Own a little bit faster and the person trying to catch up, it's like watching a YouTube video and
So
like,
cruel.
and you can see they're doing it on purpose, but you're like, you deserve this for bringing this song
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
here we go.
It's like, I
Yeah.
see you and I raise you.
But then
Yeah.
they respect, like with Dogfight, I asked you, not you, I asked the accompaniment.
The piano person.
Yes, let's just say piano
I don't
person.
think
You know,
any of us
It's all right.
get it.
to speed up the tempo and can we start again and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Blah, 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 blah,
Blah,
blah,
blah,
blah,
blah,
blah,
blah, blah.
This is Sam's first podcast.
Sam is actually Dracula.
blah, blah,
Or
blah.
drunk, I don't know. So-
Yeah.
But
No, let's just say
that's
drunk.
really cool. That's really interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's like when you're an actor, you can't like you go to a general with a casting director or agent. You don't want to do some famous monologue because instantly you're being compared with whoever this
Hamlet.
Oscar winner.
Yeah.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal to show who you are. But that's interesting. Well, what about opera?
What about it?
Because there's no backing. There's no like it's totally live.
It's very
and
different to musical theatre.
Yes.
It is
So
very
different.
different.
So we're still talking about singing.
Yeah.
We're still talking about an audience, and it's like you're right there. Like we went to see, was it Madama Butterfly?
Oh, that
And
was good.
and
I don't think we saw that. I think we saw something else.
oh well, I've seen that, but
So he goes to
we
see the
heard something
musicals
else.
and he doesn't even know what they are.
But
Yeah.
it was a good song. There was a good song in that. Oh, Rigoletto.
Yeah.
Rigoletto.
Is it Madama
And
Butterfly?
that moment when absolutely singing to the back row, and you could almost see the tonsils just
Yeah.
from row 5. just
Opera is a
absolutely,
completely different ball game with technique. Like you need to go through years and years of rigorous training. Like you can't,
to prepare your voice.
yeah,
to
like you
sustain
can't
those
say,
shows.
I'm a music theatre person who's sung Phantom of the Opera. Doesn't count.
No.
Get
Like
out.
they will hate you for
Really?
the rest of your life. Yeah.
My singing teacher for 4 years was an opera singer.
Yep.
And, teach me pop songs and stuff. But he'd have a very operatic voice. He did musical theatre as well, but a very operatic voice.
It's almost better like
he had
things
amazing
work
technique.
for everyone, but it is very beneficial if you have been classically or trained in opera first and then moving to the other kind of genres or
You're nice,
music
safe
theatre.
base, so you've got a powerful
Yeah.
voice. You know how
Yeah.
to use it. You know how to look
And you're
after it.
protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But what I don't get is how they can, like in all those, they're all fake anyway, but all those TV shows like The Voice and stuff, where they put operatic singers up against pop singers, it's like you
Yeah.
can't
They're
compare.
token
No,
opera
no, it-
singer.
it-
You're singing the same song.
To be
you
fair,
can't
if you're an
compare
opera
these
singer
voices.
who goes on The Voice, you're not an opera singer. Sorry,
like,
Luke
why-
Kennedy.
I
You're
think the producers have really worked that format so hard. Now it's really about the story that the person brings. So they'll have executive
sob
producers
story.
and they'll
Yeah.
have associate
Yeah.
producers that follow these individuals and with the camera, and it's all
a
about
reality TV
developing
show.
that narrative
Yeah.
for that person. So you're really rooting for the team, if you like.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
once actually filled out an application form for The Voice. I didn't get it.
Did you
but
actually?
I did. And
Did you send it away after you filled it out? Or you?
I did.
That's probably why you
I
didn't get
did
it.
send it away, but I didn't
You
get
filled
it.
it out.
But they wanted you to write so much. Like I think I wrote over 1,000 words of talking about myself, my experiences, maybe the not so great things that happened in my life, just so that they can put that on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really weird experience. Like they didn't care about, like, sure, they said send one recording of you singing and a couple of photos as well.
Yep.
But most of it was actually writing down your life.
Yeah,
That's what
first
it's-
it's a reality TV show, then it's a singing.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
You've got that
Yeah.
first.
And you've got to
Especially
remember the
even-
audience, because you've got an opera crowd, you've got a musical theatre crowd, you've got a theatre
Yeah,
crowd, like
I mean-
with niche, but this is a format for mass.
But
This is-
especially
this
in
is a-
America, like you watch the YouTube, like some YouTube clips of blind auditions for The Voice, and a quarter of it will be the singing, and 3/4 of it will just be the judges' relationships with each other. And it's just about that. It's about
The stories.
the
Celebrities
comedy in
and-
that,
yeah.
and celebrity
Yeah, yeah.
judges, and
And I think
Yeah.
The Voice you've seen has never produced someone who's been like on Australian or American Idol standards. And like, I had a friend who
Guy
actually
Sebastian's
got
like
to the last 4 of The Voice a few years ago,
Right.
and he was really excited. But when you sign that contract, you sign all the rights away to your music.
So even if you sing, so if I also write songs and I perform one of the songs that I've written, do they have the
own it.
rights to that
they own that song, and you lose the
Yeah.
rights to not only your songs
for a period
but
of time, like for the
for a
length of the
period
show
of
and the
time.
blackout, probably, but not.
But that's a
forever, but
significant
still
length of
that's-
time. That can be up to 10 years.
Yeah.
So that could be
Wow.
enough for him, that is enough to wipe out a career.
Because
Right?
you can't sign with a label and put that on
No.
anything.
So you lose the rights to your songs, you lose the rights to merchandise, to tours, where all the money is, right? So when my friend, he thought he would get, he would do really well off that. And unfortunately, he's back singing in the RSL clubs.
After your 50
and-
minutes are up, you've
Yeah.
got to,
yeah, and that was it. And I mean, that's like, he's very happy. That's not to say he's not
Yep.
happy doing it, but it doesn't, like, shows like that. Like now there are so many avenues. There's YouTube. There's so many avenues to become. I mean, regardless, even to be a signed music artist, you don't need to do those
No.
things anymore.
They
You-
promote this dream that they will take away from you.
They see all the
Yeah.
dazzling lights and
Yeah.
Well, you look
sign
at-
whatever's put in front of them.
You look at some of those really popular voices at the moment who started off as YouTubers, just singing on YouTube and
Bieber.
have now made it
Shawn
big.
Mendes.
Yeah. I think Troy Sivan started.
He did. I watched
Yeah.
him when he was younger.
Yeah.
That sounds so weird.
That's
watched
really
Sounds
creepy,
Like You.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed
I wouldn't get
his
caught
YouTube
doing that.
videos.
Yeah.
No.
So it's like there are different platforms. Like I think reality TV shows for singing are dying. I
Right.
hope.
Well,
Yeah, they're still being consumed, but
Yeah.
hopefully actual performers realise that
Yeah.
it's probably not the best avenue to
Actually,
take.
this is really weird, but so in the UK there was this like musical theatre competition, reality TV show which I loved. Andrew Lloyd Webber was on them, and he did one for like The Wizard of Oz, for Oliver.
Really?
And they've actually produced some big musical theatre stars.
Really?
Like if you go back and look through the alumni who've been on them, but it was great because they would dress up as the characters and then sing and then get kicked off each
Was
week.
Carrie
Oh my
Hope
God.
Fisher on that or something?
There's like the person who played okay, no, it's gone. There's
that's not going to happen.
The piano person.
Yeah.
the piano person.
It's in the piano person's lap.
There's been heaps of like I don't know their names, but there's heaps of people now that are on the West End that are from that show. But I love if they could bring that show to Australia.
I would
Interesting.
love that. Yeah.
It's great. You should,
Okay.
or just type in Andrew Lloyd Webber like musical theatre
Competition.
competition.
You know this podcast is about talking, don't you? It's all right.
Dorothy, and just like
We just got to sing the whole thing.
And
We'll do a
the
podcast.
elimination is brutal because they make
Really?
they all sing
Trapdoor?
like a song from the
Alligators?
musical each week, and then they all like,
Oh, no.
That's crazy.
and then the final two have to battle it off singing a musical theatre song.
It's like a music theatre Eurovision.
Yeah,
it
go
sounds
watch
like.
it.
That's hilarious.
it's but the thing is, they're all really like they choose really good people. Like so to get there, you were pretty good to start with.
Time to wrap up.
Hey.
Totally.
Ah,
Nice
So
work.
thank you very much for listening. Had a lot of fun talking about musicals. I feel educated. I'm going to leave the room a little bit smarter.
Good.
Good. We hope.
You need that.
yeah.
There's 2 unemployed actors for another week, broadcasting from Sydney Podcast Studios. So shout out to Rod for helping out. I'm Max.
I'm Sam.
And thank you to Jess and Emma.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
to unemployed actors.